Okay, so listen, because of my ADHD, I tend to go straight to the end of the book. Or I will literally, while I'm watching a movie, will Google not only who's in it, but what the end of the movie is, because I just don't have patience. I'll still watch it, and I'll watch it all the way through, but now I know the end of the movie. Okay? So Neville talks about living in the end. Okay? Now, let's just imagine you walked into a movie theater, okay? And you ended up buying tickets, but you messed up on the time. And you end up watching the last half an hour, not realizing it, but now you know the end. So next time, let's say you want to go watch it again now with a friend or with a loved one or whatever, you want to make some memories, you know what's going to happen. You already know what's going to happen at the end of the movie because you've seen it, right? And so after having a very good conversation with my son about movie making and filmmaking, because this is what we're in, right? That basically, if you think of living in the end, like watching a movie, okay, and that you already know the end, but the end isn't just the end of a movie, like some abstract thing that you go buy a ticket for. The end of the movie is in here. The ticket is that you created it, right? And so when you spend your time doing that, there's less surprise, right? Even if something happens along the way, you know the end. Now, let's make sense of this. Now, I used to love romantic comedies, like rom-coms, right? But I got really bored of them fast. Why? Because you know the end, right? But not only that, you know the beginning, middle, and the end. So this is a great metaphor for understanding living in the end, okay? And it's actually a great hack if you get where I'm getting you to with it. So, rom-coms, romantic comedies, boom, guy meets girl, very heteronormative, I might say. But a guy meets girl, right? They fall in love, yada, 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 all this kind of stuff, okay? But then along the way, something happens. Some of them's hiding something. One of their best friends, trips them up, an ex-lover, a controlling parent, whatever it is, a weather event, whatever. Something separates them, okay? An insecurity, it doesn't matter. But around the middle of the movie, right, you could pretty much guess that something's going to happen, okay? That's going to make them, or one of them uncomfortable, and it's going to set them off into separate trajectories, right? And then after that, something happens along the way. They get wise advice from a parent, a cousin, a friend, a stranger, Jiminy Cricket, whatever it is. They're then given some sort of epiphany, right? By the way, this is called the hero's journey if you haven't figured out the story arc, right? And so it's an actual story arc. But the whole idea is that you know what's going to happen, because then that event is going to bring them back together, okay? And then that's your happy ending, right? And so when you know the ending, you're less surprised. But how do we know the ending? Well, go check out my other video on faith, because that's the knowing, right? And so again, faith is not something that you believe in. I really don't like that definition, but faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. That's actually what the word means. So you're loyal to the wish fulfilled. You're loyal to what you want to manifest. But how do you do that? Well, you give of yourself. You give away your old self, but then you give your talents and time and energy and mental space to this new thing that you want to be loyal to, that you want to show up in your world, okay? But that's what you do. You give all of that stuff to the end, because you know the end. So even if something happens in a weird way, or let's say you're trying to get back somebody and then they end up saying, no, I'm already dating this other person, or whatever it is, and it looks impossible, everything in your mind's going to want to look at the circumstance. Okay. Now, when Neville says that circumstances don't exist, I don't want you to hear that. What I want you to hear is everything can change. Okay. Everything is changeable. Okay. That's what circumstances don't matter mean, right? Nothing is locked in. Okay. And so that means there's a possibility that exists. And if you are loyal, right, give of your talents and your time and your mind, okay, and your energy and your words and beliefs, those are your talents, by the way. The Bible calls those your talents, okay? And if you give all of those away towards the unseen reality, then you're living in the end. You're literally living in the new story as the new hero of your own story, who has your achieved desire, who has your manifestation, right? And that's what it means to live in the end. The more that you do that, you build conviction. You build belief. So when people are like, what does he mean when he talks about conviction? No, it's the more that you do it, the conviction builds. The more that you live in the memory, and yes, it is a memory, not just a scene that you're creating, right? You live in the memory of what you've created. That's living in the end. Then you live from it throughout your whole day. Not only in here, but yes, in here, but also out here. How are you living from the new perspective? Okay, that's key. And again, you know the end because you've created it. You are the film director, right? All of us are film directors. So keep in mind, you are the one who is producing, directing, and starring in your own memory-based scenes that are actually the end of your own movie when it comes to that particular desire, okay? So you are always the hero. Now, you can also end up being the villain, and that just depends on what story you're telling. And that means you're working against yourself, right? So again, stories matter, and stories matter to your brain. Even neuroscience shows this. So again, living in the end is about you directing everything, okay? You're directing your thoughts, you're directing your emotions, you're directing your feelings, okay? And you're directing all of your energy towards this new end that you already know. So it's not going to be a surprise. It's going to be a known, because you're the one who created the end.